Good morning, my name's Geoff and today I'm going to take you on a fantastic tour of Tooting. We're going to hear about the history of this extraordinary area. We're going to hear the stories of some of the people who've lived here. People like Sadie Crawford, the jazz pioneer, like Peter Barr, the Daffodil King, and many more. And we're going to start here at the statue of King Edward VII. So we're here now at the statue of King Edward VII behind me. So this was unveiled on a November day in 1911 in front of an amazing crowd of people. I think about 8,000 people gathered here at Tooting Broadway. And the Mayor of Wandsworth, a gentleman called Archibald Dawnay, pulled a white sheet off this statue and unveiled it. And it symbolised the end of the Edwardian period in this area, a decade of 10 years when suddenly this area changed from being a village into the suburb and is something like how we know it at the moment. There was a great deal of new housing, places like the Totterdown Fields Estate, the Fairlight Estate, great buildings in this area like the Central Methodist Hall, the Public Library. Tooting Lido was constructed in 1906 and it really was an exciting age for this area. Also the trams would have been running along this road. That all started in 1903. So it was very much an era of awakening and the development of the modern day Tooting. So the Edwardian age was the time when cinemas popped up all over Tooting for the first time, and one of the most spectacular and decorative was the amazing Broadway Electric Picture Palace. This beautiful photograph shows what it looked like, and where we are now you can see the amazing detail in the building. Look at the curves over there and look at the stone relief plaques on top of those stone pillars and going along there. So picture the scene of the spectacular cinema dating from April 1912 when it opened, and one of the first things that was shown there, because it was actually the week that the Titanic sunk, was a film about icebergs floating around in the North Atlantic Sea. So the spectacular Tooting Granada, built in 1931. Picture the scene, 3,000 people piling in here, a spectacular opening ceremony and really the grandest cinema in the area. And in the 1950s, 1960s, it became a musical venue, so some of the biggest names performing at the time came here. In 1953, Frank Sinatra. In 1963, the Beatles famously played here on the Roy Orbison tour, supporting Jerry and the Pacemakers. Also the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Beach Boys, the Supremes, all the very biggest names have come here. It is the most beautiful building inside. If you walk in, twinkling lights, glittering gold facade, Gothic details, a hall of mirrors and a really spectacular organ. So do go in there if you get a chance and enjoy what is really the jewel in the heart of Tooting. 1st of June 1963, what an amazing day here in Tooting. Just 5 minutes walk away from where we're standing, the Beatles playing on the Roy Orbison tour at the Tooting Granada. And here on Trevelyan Road at this house behind me, various sightings of the Fab Four that day. We got Ringo Starr dangling his legs out of a top window, George Harrison buying a little girl an ice cream on the street, Paul McCartney in the fish and chip shop at the end of the road, and various sightings of John Lennon on various corners that day. So what on earth were they doing in this area? What is this association with Trevelyan Road? All we know is that earlier that day they were recording at the BBC at studios in central London, and they came down here to Tooting later and might have just wanted a little bit of chill out time before the big concert at the Granada. But if you saw them in the area or have any knowledge about why they were here in Trevelyan Road that day, it'd be really great to hear from you. And what we'd like to do is to put a blue plaque on the house behind me commemorating that great day when the swinging 60s began here in Tooting, the 1st of June 1963. So we're now standing on Garrett Lane, one of the most historic routes in this area, stretching all the way from the mouth of the Wandle in Wandsworth right down here to Tooting, nearly 3 miles long and absolutely soaked with history, stories and significant people who lived on it. And one of those people was somebody called Peter Barr, the Daffodil King, who was living in a number of addresses around here. Some of these houses behind us were where he raised his family of 7 children about 150 years ago when he came to this area. And what did he come here for? The fertile lands in the Wandle Valley where he could trial and test his plants, and most significantly of all, his daffodils. And the whole of this area basically would have been one big hothouse, plants being grown, exotic nurseries and daffodils on both sides of the road. So a really important growing area for market gardening in the late Victorian age. So we're here now at Garrett Lane outside Streatham Cemetery, which is one of the many places where Peter Barr, the Daffodil King, actually grew his flowers. And this was when this was known as Springfield Nursery. About 6 months ago, we had an amazing community event not very far away from here, just up the road at the entrance to the Aboyne Estate. We actually put up a commemorative blue plaque which was at the site of the entrance to the nurseries. And it was an incredible day, attended by many people, and at the end of it, they all came back here and they were all given historic bulbs to plant. Everybody got them. Churches, mosques, charities, schools, housing estates, everybody got their historic bulbs and they planted them in September. And come the spring, what happened? But we had a beautiful wave of historic daffodils growing in this area, like through this avenue here into Streatham Cemetery on the left-hand side. The really great thing is that now when people ask what is Tooting famous for, and you might think St George's Hospital, Tooting Bec Lido, Sadiq Khan, but you would also think the daffodil. So we've just had the centenary of the First World War, and one of the most incredible stories to emerge out of that was the story of a 12-year-old boy who ran away from home and joined the British Army and ended up fighting on the Somme battlefield at the age of 13. And behind me is the house where he lived with his mum and dad and his family of 7 children living over there on 934 Garrett Lane. So Sidney served in the British Army and was recalled and came back to this house. And right in the middle of the centenary period, we had an amazing day here on Garrett Lane. There was about 500 people turned up. We had Chelsea pensioners with the Mayor of Wandsworth. We had Sidney Lewis's son, Colin, actually came and unveiled a blue plaque on this building. It was an incredible day. Loads of children have learnt about Sidney's story, and he's become part of the history of this area. We're now in Fountain Road Recreation Ground, and this was the site of an extraordinary facility that for about 40 years was known as the Tooting Dust Destructor. Picture the scene. There was a massive 150-foot tall chimney belching out soot and dirt, because this was the Wandsworth Council rubbish incineration facility. It's hard to believe now when we look around us and we kind of see all these trees and the lovely little park, but this is really where something quite unpleasant happened. And working here was somebody who's very well known in the history of Wandsworth. His name is Corporal Edward Foster VC, very much regarded as one of the biggest First World War heroes in this area, who once lived on Fountain Road. His bravery at the village of Villa Pluie earned him the Victoria Cross. And 100 years after that event, the villagers of Villa Pluie have clubbed together and put up a huge memorial to him, which is about as tall as any one of the lampposts in this street, commemorating Britain's bravest bin man from Fountain Road. And if you go to the Imperial War Museum in London and you go to the top floor where they've got all the medals on display, and you go over to a box which has got a bin lid painted on it, and you lift it up, and inside are all his medals, including the Victoria Cross. And you can see behind us here, Wandsworth Council have put a green plaque on this property where he lived. He's buried very near Streatham Cemetery. He died in 1946, but he's very much commemorated in this area behind the Henry Prince estate. You've got Foster's Way, and you've even got a new council housing development in Battersea named Edward Foster Close. So we're now in Fountain Road, and we're just across the road from the home of somebody called Louisa Marshall, who's more famously known as Sadie Crawford, a jazz pioneer who a few years ago became the first woman to be recognised with a blue plaque in Tooting. So Sadie was raised in that little house behind me. There were 8 people living there. Take yourself back to the 1891 census. Sadie's mother, recently widowed, and she was the youngest of 7 children living in that little house. There wasn't much money going around, and by the age of 11, Sadie was scrubbing floors in the area and working as a domestic servant. But somehow she pulled herself up out of that. She got involved in the Empire Theatre at Leicester Square. She met various performers coming from America, such as Pete Hampton, Laura Bowman, and Adolph Crawford, who she married, and she ended up singing and dancing, playing saxophone on the stage, and is believed to be the first woman to record a jazz record in 1923. So it's really great that we commemorate Sadie here, and we had a great day when we unveiled that plaque. And very excitingly, the Streatham and Clapham Girls' School decided that they would get involved in the project, and they initiated a Sadie Crawford Scholarship. And it was very exciting that day to actually have the Sadie Crawford Scholar performing outside the house behind me. And so many people can get great inspiration from Sadie's story, and the fact that you can really rise from great adversity and still go out and follow your dream. She ended up living in Washington DC, where she's remembered as well, and the Washington Post came all the way to Tooting about a year ago to run a story about her. So this is something that is going to run and run, and watch out for Sadie the movie coming your way very soon. So exactly 100 years ago, somebody living in this house here on Trevelyan Road completed a remarkable athletic achievement at the Olympic Games. Albert Hill won the 800 metres and the 1500 metres. He ran 7 races in 8 days, and the 800 metres, that would have been roughly the length of this street is about 600 metres. So imagine him running the length of this street and then halfway back up again to this house, and his time was 1 minute 53 seconds. And his time for the 1500 metres was 4 minutes and 1 second, so about 2.5 times the length of this road. So Albert's achievement was all the more remarkable given his age. He was actually 31. He'd served in the First World War as a wireless operator in the Royal Flying Corps, came out of the trenches, started training. He'd also developed a very serious cigarette habit, 60 a day apparently, which he had to ditch, and he started training again and got into the team for the 1920 Olympics in Antwerp, and went there and won 2 gold medals. And that's a feat that has not been repeated by a British athlete until Dame Kelly Holmes at the Athens Games in 2004. So we are really proud of Albert, and we've decided that we're going to put a blue plaque to commemorate his achievements on this house here in Trevelyan Road. So we'll be doing that sometime very soon. Look out for that. And what a great occasion it's going to be. And isn't it brilliant, the inspiration that he's that he's left? Just look at these people now running in this area, and that's the legacy of Albert Hill, Trevelyan Road in Tooting. So we're now here at St George's Hospital. So this is actually the site of 2 very old hospitals dating from the late 19th century, the Fountain and the Grove, 2 fever hospitals set up in response to the scarlet fever epidemic of 1893. And they were here for about 50 or 60 years. And in their turn, one of them was a children's hospital. And basically St George's Hospital itself, it relocated from Hyde Park Corner And you might know the Lanesborough wing in this hospital. Well, that's actually the area where it was at Hyde Park Corner. So 1970 it came to this to this area. The decision was actually made after the Second World War, but they moved the location of the hospital here, and it opened for business in 1980. And people from all over the world have come to work here. There's large communities from places like the Philippines, from Mauritius, from Kenya, from Ghana, in Tooting. And the reason is that jobs were advertised in those countries way back in the 60s and 70s, and now they're thriving, vibrant communities adding to the rich diversity of this area. And one of the many reasons why we're so proud of this hospital is the fact that it's been here and it's in this community and doing extraordinary work in these extraordinary times. So we're very proud of it. And just two people I meant to mention who are associated with St George's historically: Edward Jenner, the man who eradicated smallpox, and John Hunter, the father of modern surgery. They were both associated with St George's Hospital when it was in Hyde Park. So I really hope you enjoyed the walk, and if you want to do more and kind of learn a little bit more about the history of this area, then please go to my website, somerstown182.wordpress.com, where you can download one of about 15 different walks in this area. And hopefully once things have gone back to normal, you can join me on one of my tours or guided walks in the area that are going to be happening hopefully before very long. Another thing, if you have enjoyed this video and you've appreciated what we've done, we'd love it if you were able to make a donation to the St George's Hospital charity or Critical NHS and support all the key workers doing such amazing work at this hospital in Tooting, at the very heart of our community. Thank you.